my name's Teresa. And this is my channel, Homestead Life. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making refried beans, and actually this is going to be a two-part thing for me. It's going to look all together for y'all, but we're going to start by doing our beans tonight. I'm going to be doing them in the crock pot. It takes about 10 hours in the crock pot, so let's get started with this, and then tomorrow we'll finish it off. The first thing I do is I start off with my pinto beans. And I've actually already gone through and sorted through these. These are just right out of the container. I buy an industrial size, big like 50-pound pan beans that I have in a Gamma container. So just go ahead and kind of go through the beans. Oh, there's another one that I didn't like. And you're gonna pull out anything that might be, bad, split, something that looks like a rock. We're just trying to get all the things in here that we wouldn't want in our refried beans. Now we're going to move over to the sink and rinse them in the sink in a colander. Alright, so now we're going to pour our pinto in our colander. And just with some regular water, just kind of rinse them. And what we're trying to do is just get all of the dirt and dust off of them. Now some people soak their beans, I don't. Not when I'm using either the Instapot or if I'm using the crock pot. Okay, so that's pretty good. All right, let these kind of drain here just a little bit. And then we'll go back over to the island. Okay, let's go ahead and put these beans directly into the Instant Pot, or into the crock pot. All right, grab these and grab the last little beans. And now what we're gonna do is take a white onion, and I'm gonna go ahead and peel this, chop it up roughly, not a small chop, put it in there for some flavor. So we'll do that. I like the flavor that the white onion brings and gives to the actual beans. It's not overpowering, but it does give it a little bit of flavor. Let's take and peel off. Onions are so messy, but they add such a great amount of flavor that they are worth the time, energy, and effort. So with this, I'm just going to kind of quarter it a little bit. Put those in here. Okay. And then, let's move this out of the way. That's all I needed that for. And put this over just a little bit more. Now what I'm going to do is open up some containers of chicken broth. This is homemade chicken broth that I canned back in February. Some people will just use water. I like to use chicken broth. It just gives an extra level of flavor to the beans. Now, when I do my chicken broth, I don't put like seasoning or anything in there. It's pretty basic. And all I'm going to do is cover this up. That's a good amount there. Then I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of salt. And this will really salt the beans. And this is Redmond's real salt, which if anybody's ever used Redmond's, they'd know that it's really not like overly salty salt. Kind of like if you use an iodized salt, it has a different flavor than the Redmond's. Now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and cover this up. And I'm going to put it on low for 10 hours, or basically overnight. So let's go ahead and do that. Turn it on. 10 hours. So we'll go ahead and have it on 10 hours for low. It's way past 10 o'clock. I think it's probably about 11 o'clock at night. So when I wake up in the morning, I will check on this and I'll bring y'all back with me. Good morning. So we are back and it's been over the 10 hours. Woke up this morning, I did stir these beans. They've been sitting on warm for a little while as well. One of the things I did before I went to bed was I checked the beans, and there was some need for some more broth to be put on there. That's totally normal as they start to soak things up. So now they're kind of cooled. They're not totally cool, but they're steaming hot. Let's take a look at what they look like. And these are just perfect. They've been sitting here a little bit. As you can see, the top kind of gets a little more brown as the water or broth isn't on it. But these are just perfect. So the next step we're going to do is we are going to actually drain the beans. And the way that I'm going to do this is I want to have the beans that are coming back in here. I'm going to take a nice little colander. I'm going to take and just scoop this out. I want to try to not make as much of a mess as possible. But I want to separate some of the broth from the beans. We will use the juice of the beans when we're mashing them, but I don't want to just pour the whole thing in there because we want to definitely make sure that our beans aren't too runny. So like that. We'll utilize the bowl that we had used yesterday to sort the beans. And it's fine that it's got the little pieces of onion in it. It's not that big of a deal. If you aren't someone who likes a lot of onion, but you like the onion flavor, you can always take that out. Now, when I'm making beans, I make a bigger batch than some people do. And that's just because I don't do it all the time. If I was doing it all the time, I probably would just do smaller batches. You could do this on the stove. You could also do this if you have a big roaster pan. We've done that before when we're doing a really large batch. So let's just get this sorted out. And I have the towel under here just so that I don't make a mess on my counters. It's easier just to clean up a towel than it is to clean up all the goo that you might get on the counter. Cooking is never a clean thing. I don't think I've ever seen somebody who has like a really clean kitchen as they're cooking. The joke in my family growing up was the messier the kitchen, the better the meal. So if you had a really big mess to clean up, you definitely had a delicious meal waiting for you. Oops, I have a bean that's loose. Perfect. If you notice these beans, the way that we know that they're done is you can smush them with your fingers very easily. My fingers are clean. I did wash my hands before I started this. It's one of my things that I always do before I start cooking is I prep my area, get everything that I need to have ready so that it's all at my fingertips, kind of run through what I'm going to do to make it, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Every once in a while we do forget something like, oh, I need a spatula, or I should have something different. And you think about that when you kind of do a dry run in your mind on what you're going to need. It just makes it a little bit easier. And then once I've got everything together, that's when I wash my hands. And after I wash my hands, that's when I get cooking started. I don't always show that on camera because I think that's kind of like boring. Do it, but. And I'm not too worried about making sure that 100% of the liquid is out. Just want to get the majority of it. And you'll notice that my bowl is getting super full. And that's totally fine. I wish I had a larger clear glass bowl, but I don't. I guess I'll have to add that to my list. I do, my larger bowls are all stainless steel. I've had those forever, but I didn't want to just dirty something new. All I did last night was rinse this out, knowing that I would use it today. If it's a heaping bowl, that's totally fine. After we get all of this into this bowl, then we're gonna move over to the stove where I've got my extra large cast iron skillet. And that is where the next phase and step will happen. And we will be mashing our beans, doing the refried part of the beans. Okay, now we're over here at the stove and we're gonna go ahead and turn on the burner to about a medium-high heat or so. And I am going to take some bacon grease. Every time I make bacon, I put it in a container and I'll put it in the refrigerator for later use. Now when I actually have too much in the refrigerator, I'll freeze it. Okay, because this is like liquid gold. And I'm gonna take about 2 spoonfuls here. And this is gonna also help flavor the beans. So we'll go ahead and do that. Get this melted in here. And I know some people that pre-smash their beans. I just do it all in this actual pan. And I love you. Smells like I just cooked bacon in here because of the grease in here, but I didn't. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna dump all of our beans into the pan here. And then I'm gonna start with my masher and just kind of mash them slightly. Now, everybody has different ways that they like their beans, and depending on what you're doing your beans for, like these are gonna be made for burritos, so I'm not gonna want them super thin, but I'm not gonna want them overly thick. I just like to smash them down a little bit for now, and then just kind of get them started, and then I will take the beans out of the masher as much as possible. I'm not about losing beans, even though I'm making it a lot. I like to try to utilize everything. Okay, now what I'm going to be doing is taking my handheld mixer, here my little stick mixer, and I'm going to be getting these a lot smoother. I like my beans really super smooth. I prefer them not to have chunks in them or very little chunks. So at this point, that's what we're going to do. And as we're doing this, we will add in a little bit of the bean juice or liquid from cooking to kind of help make them a little more runny and not so thick. Now make them to the consistency you like, and this can always be adjusted. Now I've had this hand mixer for, gosh, 15 years or so. Eventually I'm gonna get a newer stainless steel one, just because I'm always kind of afraid that with the plastic it might melt. All right, so now we have, just kind of getting this off the side here. All right, let's get this mixed through. And this is the refried part. Now this is a little bit thick, so I'm gonna thin it out. Now if I save this and I freeze it and it's too thick, but I don't have any more of the liquid, because I wouldn't save the liquid, then what I would do is just cut it, if I wanted it thinner, with maybe either a little bit of water, or you can use some chicken stock. That'll give it a nice flavor. And I like to make these a little bit runnier, but not super runny. Now, if I'm gonna make these for dinner and they're gonna be served like as a side dish, I'll probably have them more runny than what I'm gonna do now, because we're gonna make these for burritos, right? So we don't want them too super runny. There's gonna be other things in the burritos, which will kind of thin it out, but we do want it to be fairly thick. Perfect consistency here for what I'm looking for. It's not too thick, it's not too thin. See, it would definitely be something that is a good consistency. Now, like I said, you can always thin it down more later, and if you don't have any of the juice left, which you're not gonna save, you can always use water or chicken broth. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little taste and see if I need to adjust any seasonings or add anything. And it actually isn't too bad, but I'm going to put, so I just want a little bit of seasoning in there. I'm gonna put some garlic powder. And it may look like it's a lot, but it's not. A little more onion flavor, so if I can get the onion powder loose. Some onion powder. And then one of my favorites, Lawry's seasoned salt. Just because this is gonna add some to the burritos. Now the meat in the burritos that I'm gonna be making is gonna have seasoning too, but I wanna season this in a way that's going to be good for not just the burritos, but if I have some left over and I freeze this up or save it for later, another time frame, that I can do that and it's not going to be overpowering of any sort. Okay. And some of these seasonings may not be traditional seasonings, but hey, it's what we like, and you can use whatever it is that you like to make it customized to your taste. So let's kind of give it just a little more juice. Okay, so I've turned the beans off. They've been sitting here. They're the perfect consistency from what I'm wanting right now. They're going to thicken up a little bit more as they sit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these back into the bowl that we had before. All right, let's move this over here. And now we've got our completed beans. I'm going to make me a little taster bowl just to try. And I have some of my favorite cheese here, which is this, I think it's Chihuahua, I don't know. I can't say it right, but it is amazing. I love it. So I'm gonna go ahead and let me grab a spoon. One of these days I'll move the spoons back where they go. And then just kind of give it a little mix. And then give it a little taste. Just a little one, I don't want a big one. Very good. So there you have how I make my refried beans. And I will pop a link into the video where I make the burritos as well if you'd like to see those. And I hope to see you again soon. Thanks.